Hey, welcome to Discovering More. My name is Ethan Lumen. Got David Forkey with me. It's been a while since the two of us have been on this together.
Yeah, I've been on a little bit of a vacation break. So,
So
here we go.
Yes, we've been. One of us has been gone.
Yeah.
Never a time when both of us were gone.
No.
But just been passing ships in the night.
It's good to be back together.
It is. It is. So we're in our Risking Relationship series. I mean, I've appreciated it. I hope you have too. I hope you have. As we've kind of just taken a very practical look at what does it mean to put God's love into action, and how does that challenge us to take a step of faith? Whether it's at work, in our neighborhood, and I think this is a more challenging one in our marriages.
Yeah. I just feel like within a marriage, it's so easy. You just get to the point where you're just doing what you need to do day to day, and not necessarily reflecting on how am I actually putting my faith in God and my love for God in action within this relationship.
Yeah.
And it's worth taking a step back and reflecting on that and saying, how is God calling me to love within my marriage in a more powerful way?
The thing this is the wild thing about being a pastor, right? Like, you can have the right answer to the question, but not by personal experience.
Right.
And then you get the personal experience. One of those that happened to me recently was around the idea of so often in our marriages or relationships, especially marriage, we get to see ourselves more clearly. So often we think it's the other person. We think it's the other person. But in reality, it's us. We're just seeing us. We're seeing a reflection of ourselves. And we might not like the reflection we see of ourselves. And in our maybe discomfort, insecurity, pride, instead of saying, oh, I don't like the way I look, we say, I don't like the way this person is. Or
the way this person is responding to who I am.
Right. When the problem might be us. Not saying it's always us. Not saying I'm always the problem or you're always the problem, but just saying so often in marriage we have this opportunity to see ourselves most clearly, and the two become one. We should at some level expect that in this, so marriage, one of the things we talked about in this sermon was just how central to the Bible this concept of marriage is. How it's woven into every, from beginning to end, Genesis to Revelation. And whether your parents were married when they had you or not, there's a man and a woman behind your DNA, behind your specific genetic sequence. So really we have marriage written into every single chromosome or DNA strand in our body. We are the product of one man and one woman. So marriage is central to who we are as people. It's central to the scriptural story because ultimately this is a picture of the unity that God wants to have with his people, Christ with the church. And it's not physical in the way that marriage is physical, although Jesus has given us his body, his blood to eat and to drink in communion. So there is a very physical, tangible, real element to it, but there's also something more profound.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, and it's something we tend not to reflect a whole lot on, but that God has a purpose for our marriage. I believe, scripturally speaking, he has a purpose for our marriages outside of what we're doing with and for each other, but that our marriages would reflect his goodness to the world around us, but also reflect his character to the world around us in that kind of a tight, bonded, loving, and serving relationship.
Yeah. I think one thing it can be hard to appreciate is just how much Christianity revolutionized the concept of marriage. From the beginning, it said male, female, one man, one woman, but how often was that embraced? I mean, you see, who is the first guy in the Bible with two wives? Is it Lamech? It's like one of the sons of Cain. He takes two wives or whatever. I forget what his name is, but he's the first guy to take two wives. He, kind of a weird guy there in the Bible. But then after that, we start to see this become more common. Men taking multiple wives, and then in other cultures, I mean, all bets are off. There's kind of just this. Your sexuality is yours to explore and do with what you want, and do to others what you want. All this kind of it's crazy. But Christianity breaks onto the scene, and everyone's shocked. Like one man, one woman for life. What is this?
Right.
We in America, we kind of take it for granted that this is the backdrop on marriage, and I think the divorce rate is what it is, and all that kind of stuff. But the underlying reality is that Jesus has, and his teachings have so greatly impacted marriage. And in the Christian church, it's not that marriage isn't as hard for us as for anyone else. But he reset the standard, that, and I think that is pretty significant.
Yeah. Well, he reset the standard of just actually everybody's worth, in the eyes of God, and then that applies into marriage. There's no man. The man is greater than the woman, and the woman is subservient. Although we have language in the scriptures that talk about serving. And so forth, obedience, but it's always in the context of serving one another, of humbling ourselves and serving one another, even within that marriage relationship.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the big things that I keep having to be reminded of in my marriage. Am I serving my wife well? Because it's so easy to be worrying and thinking about, not worrying, but thinking about how could she be doing something better. It would really help me if my wife would do this, if Marla would be this way or that way. But what I really need to be thinking about is, am I doing what I can to serve her, to help her in her spiritual life as well, in emotional life and everything.
Yeah.
And
well, thanks for reading my tangent back. I was kind of on but I think, that to say that everyone has worth and value, and that recentering, I think that's we have this sole focus, this one focus, very specific person, and it's easy to talk about love generically, but you got a specific person with specific blessings and specific challenges, and how do you love this one?
And going to the theme, that's a risk, right? There's always a risk that if I'm serving, if I'm, humbling myself, that my wife could take advantage of that. But I have faith and trust in our relationship, in her love for me, that's not going to happen, and that God is going to make good out of that, and He's going to bond us even that more closely together, if my heart is right in the way I approach the relationship.
Yeah, and I think we can deceive ourselves pretty easily. We can deceive other people pretty easily.
Oh, yeah.
But when you live with someone day after day, after week after week, after month after year, you can't deceive them. And the prayer is that someday you'll stop deceiving yourselves or others, and that. And so that's one of the biggest things for me in this season is just to say, gosh, what are the depths of brokenness within me, and how am I bringing that into not only my marriage? This is the battleground.
Yep.
Now, if I can figure it out here and fix it here, how much is that going to bless every other aspect of my life?
Yeah.
So, if you're dating or looking to date or whatever, I think one of the takeaways from that would be, start doing the hard work internally. Like, start figuring out who you are. What are your flaws, your tics, those things that kind of set you off, and what's underneath that, and start doing that work so that when you step into marriage, like you kind of already have a good sense of who you are, and you're also willing then to maybe embrace the other person in the midst of their frailties or weaknesses as well.
Yeah, the more I understand my own brokenness and my own struggles, and am honest with that, instead of trying to hide them, the better I'm able to accept the weaknesses and issues in my spouse or in anybody I have a close relationship with, because I'm just like, I'm there with you, you know. That maybe bothers me, but I understand, because I know I'm doing stuff that bothers you. You may not tell me, but I'm sure that I am. Right?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we can go on for much longer. Well, we don't need to get ourselves in trouble.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
But praying for your marriage, your dating relationship, your singleness. That's another thing about Scripture that I also mentioned. Jesus, ultimate human, was single. So even if you're single, there's a blessing and a God-honoring part of that. And so don't feel like you're not whole if you're not married or dating. Jesus has come for each of us to be our completion in Him. Yeah. So I hope you'll risk maybe some pride or insecurity or whatever it is that's kind of getting in your way right now, and just risk that love and service. So we'll see you next time.
All right.